so much going on with web applications these days, and so many options available to designers and developers between Flash and Flex, and now Air from Adobe, as well as the various Microsoft technologies, and then we've got open standards and things like Ajax applications emerging, and all of the different toolkits that are available for doing that kind of work. It's just such a rich time for us, and with so many possibilities. You have to spend an enormous amount of time these days trying to make a choice about what platforms and what technologies you're going to employ, whereas even just a few years ago, really the only choice that you had was Flash or HTML. So many of these things are moving targets. You know, Ajax development is growing more and more sophisticated all the time, and the things that people are starting to be able to do with Flex applications are, I think we're really starting to see a convergence in terms of the different strengths of the different platforms that are available to people. The most important thing is to understand really what the technologies are good for and what you're trying to accomplish for your users. You know, a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people about Ajax because of the work that I've done in Ajax. And a lot of people kind of come at it from the perspective of, oh, Ajax is going to solve all of my problems. That all I have to do is inject some Ajax into my application, that's automatically going to make it better. But that's not really the case. And what you have to do is really understand what's going on with your users, what they're trying to accomplish, and how to deploy the various technologies you have available to you to help the users accomplish their goals. Well, Air really throws an interesting new spin on all of it because, you know, taking these applications out of the browser and making them available on the desktop, that's an enormous advance. For applications to be able to make smart choices about the experience that they deliver when the user is offline versus online is something that's brand new for people who've been doing browser-based application development. And so Air, I think, is going to open up some really interesting possibilities in the next couple of years. I can see Air as being just kind of the next logical step in the progression of these web applications. You know, the original web applications were highly synchronous. You know, user activity and server activity had to be tightly coordinated in time. Ajax loosened that up a little bit with the introduction of asynchronous communication with the server. So now what the user does and what communication is going on with the server don't have to happen in tight sync. And now Air takes that a step further and completely detaches it. You can have a whole lot of user activity going on without even an internet connection available. And so I think that the possibilities that that opens up for designers and for user experience are really exciting. For the designers and developers of these applications, it's going to lead to some difficult choices that they're going to have to make about what functionality they enable in this sort of offline mode versus what functionality they really want to force people to make a connection in order to be able to use. And so right now we're all still sort of sorting through where we draw those lines, and where we draw those lines are going to be different for different kinds of applications. There are going to be some kinds of user tasks that right now it might seem like we really want to allow them to happen offline, but when they get out into the wild, we discover that, you know what, that connection to the database actually is really important. Being able to see what people are starting to do with Air and really taking these, what have historically been browser-based applications in brand new directions. The finalists for the awards that they're giving out here, I spent some time yesterday looking at them. They're really phenomenal, and they really do point the way to new approaches to user experience that haven't been available to us, even on the desktop, really, in a very direct and streamlined way before. In the early years of any new technology, you're going to have people making design mistakes as we figure out what the technologies are good for and figure out what the best ways are to use them. The funny thing about that, though, is it's very difficult to predict in advance what mistakes people are going to be making. I don't think that when Flash first came along and people started doing Flash applications that people would have been able to predict the wave of Flash sites that we saw that were kind of making the same kinds of mistakes over and over again. You kind of have to make those mistakes before you can move forward. I I think one of the biggest challenges for designers is in making this transition from browser-based applications to these hybrid online-offline applications is how we manage user expectations, and how do we clearly communicate to them what they can do when they're offline versus what they can't do. Clearly communicating to them the ways in which these new kinds of applications don't behave, and they shouldn't expect them to behave in the same way that web browser applications have historically. And this is an area where I think we're going to be making a lot of mistakes, and as we're making assumptions about what users understand or don't understand about the way that the systems that we're creating work, and not clearly communicating to them what they need to know. The really important thing is to keep in mind that the user doesn't necessarily understand the inner workings of the application. That there are things that would seem completely logical to the designers and developers of these applications that to the users are completely opaque. They don't make any sense at all. And so I think that especially initially, we need to really over-communicate to the users what they can and can't do, and what their expectations ought to be as they work with these new kinds of applications.